Take my hand. I'll lead you into death. By a Whisper in the Shadows on AO3. Episode 28. Chapter 16. Katsuki cursed as Aizawa made a sharp turn, gripping the car seat and his phone for dear life. He, Kirishima, Aizawa, All Might, and Midnight had sprinted out of the dorms as soon as they saw Izuku on that screen. They had been eager to get to Eri, only hesitating because of logistics. But Izuku made it through, which meant they could as well. Now there were two lives they cared about on the line. Katsuki's heart was pounding loudly in his ear. He wanted to use his quirk to get there. It would have been faster. So did Aizawa. But to get them all there quickly, the car was the most optional. It made Katsuki want to scream, even if he was happy Kirishima was with him. He always knew how to keep Katsuki level-headed in a fight. They stared at his phone screen, watching Izuku throw everything he had at the Nomu. They all remember facing those things. They were not an easy feat. The strangest thing was, Izuku appeared to be winning. Easily, as well. The footage wasn't clear, but they could see well enough. Izuku wasn't holding back anything. His strikes were vicious and precise, hitting the monster where it clearly hurt. If Katsuki didn't know any better, he'd guess Izuku knew exactly how to take down the monster. Then again, he really didn't know any better. Oh fuck. Aizawa growled, throwing the car into park before jumping out. Katsuki relentingly left his phone down, running after his teacher. He almost stumbled at the size of the crowd around the museum, the number of heroes being blocked by police. It was completely fucking baffling. Aizawa! All their attention was brought to Tsukachi as he pushed his way through the crowd. Yamada's up front. They followed the detective, shoving their way past the hordes of people. Aizawa, there's something wrong. Something bigger than just the Nomu. None of my men will listen to me, nor the chief of police. It's like they can't even hear us. When they managed to get to the front of the crowd, Katsuki understood exactly what the detective meant. The police force stared blankly, eyes gazed as they locked heroes and civilians from getting through. Katsuki knew what they were all thinking. It was just like Shinsou's brainwashing. One hero tried to fly above them, only to be open fired at, barely making it back to the ground safely. Kami, save us, Ami whispered from behind him. Katsuki couldn't help but agree with the craziness of the situation. Police shooting at heroes. It was bizarre. It was only when he glanced at Kirishima after the boy left a shocked squeak, he realized everyone was looking up. His breath hitched. Izuku was being held to the roof's ground by his neck, head dangling over the side of the building. The monster screamed in his face. Izuku screamed right back at it. Katsuki instinctively stepped forward, hands to his side ready to fly, only to be grabbed by Kirishima. They'll shoot you down, Kat. He tried, desperation leaking into his voice. But Katsuki shoved him away. He needed to get to Izuku. Another blood-curdling scream, and they watched the monster fly off the side of the building, falling out of sight. Katsuki gasped in relief, ready to take off again. Katsuki, no! There's another one, and please, I need to get to him. I can get over them. He turned to Aizawa, who was watching him intensely. I can get over them. If you get everyone back, Midnight can put the police to sleep. I can make it. I'll get them both. Aizawa stared at him, a long moment, before nodding sharply and bellowing orders, the rest of their teachers and the detectives joining in. Katsuki took a deep breath before shooting into the sky, bracing himself for any incoming fire. But nothing came. The police didn't even flinch as he shot above them. Another hero went flying after him, only to be followed by the sounds of ricocheting gunshots. Katsuki didn't have time to dwell on that, as he laced in front of the group of cowering children. Kitty! Eri cried, reaching out to him. He swept her into a big hug as he surveyed the group. None seemed injured, just scared shitless. Zuzu, she whimpered in his arms. He pulled her down carefully and gave what he hoped was a reassuring smile. Glancing behind him, he saw Izuku barely standing upright as he slowly made his way to them. He stumbled, landing hard on his hands and knees. Katsuki moved towards him. The younger boy glanced up, their eyes meeting. He looked terrible, covered in blood and bruises. Still, Katsuki felt some relief seeing the boy still breathing. Izuku's eyes widened suddenly, screaming his name. Katsuki had no time to turn, no time to defend. He was hit from the side. He flew, racking into a wall. Everything hurt. His head spun. Distantly, he registered the sounds of screaming. He opened his eyes beardly, his breath catching. Izuku was glowing in rage. He hollered as he hit the Nomu, over and over. He maneuvered his way to the monster's shoulder, wrapping his legs around its neck. He lifted his pole above the Nomu's head. He was deadly. He was terrifying. He was breathing, taking. The last thing Katsuki remembered before drifting away was Izuku's fatal scream as he plunged the pole deep into the monster's brain. Eri, Eri, Eri. That's all Izuku could see. That's all he could hear. He needed to save her. His Eri. Protect, protect, protect. That's all Izuku could feel. Then relief. Fireworks filled his line of vision. Caramel filled the air. Izuku felt like he could breathe again. Red, red, red. That's all Izuku could see. Kacchan's red eyes. So good. Then as Kacchan was taken away, he was hurt. His Eri was scared. Rage was all that was left. Kill, kill, kill. Shouta started awake at the grow next to him. The long day had turned into an excruciating longer night. When they first took Izuku in, Bakugou's parents had been permitted to return to their busy work lives, plus some added protection. When Shouta called them about the recent incident, he was told that they were abroad again. Shouta said he would ask Bakugou if he wanted his parents to return, seeing as his condition wasn't life-threatening, though he was sure he already knew the answer. The Bakugous would forever confuse him. Still, the boy needed someone, and Shouta wasn't keen on leaving the hospital just yet. Yes, he wanted to be home with Eri and his husband. He wasn't happy with leaving her out of his sight so soon. But he knew she was safe. He had 2 other kids to worry about as well. Izuku was still heavily drugged. The nurses informed him there was a better chance of Bakugou waking up much sooner than the other boy. Shota's heart hurt when he thought of why Izuku was drugged. The feral look on his face. Bakugou blinked his eyes open, before hissing and groaning again, turning away from the light. Shouta swiftly got up to turn the blinding white down, picking up some water as he went. Bakugou peered beerly at him, grunting in thanks as he took the water. A moment of peace passed, before Bakugou was shooting up in his bed. He didn't get very far. Kami, fuck! He spat through gritted teeth, heaving deep breaths and throwing his head between his knees. Shouta took away the cup so it wouldn't spill more. Easy, kiddo. Got yourself an almighty concussion, he murmured, placing a steady hand on the blonde's back. After a moment, he moved Bakugou carefully to lean on his bed, sitting him against the pillows. His student gripped madly at his sleeves. Izu, he slurred out. Izuku, where? Is he safe? He's here at the hospital. He's safe. It's okay. Shouta tried keeping his voice low and reassuring. He wasn't sure if he should tell Bakugou about the exact state Izuku was in, though it was only a matter of time before he found out. Eri? Shouta gave a small smile. At home. Also safe. He reached over to the bed to press the call button, alerting the nurses Bakugou was awake. He watched the student take long, deep breaths, his eyes closed, and was sure after a minute he had fallen asleep. When the nurses came in, they opened again. seemingly more awake than before. It was the calmest Shouta had seen him in the hospital, barely putting up a fuss as the nurse parted around him, asking routine questions. Bakugou spoke again, once the nurse had left. I want to see him. Shouta sighed. He's still sleeping. I don't care. I just want to. I need to see him. Wait. Bakugou began to look frantic, trying to get up. Why is he sleeping? How badly was he hurt? I need to see him. Katsuki. Should have put a firm hand on Bakugou's chest, keeping him still. He's fine, yes. He was a little beaten up, but so were you. You need to calm down or you won't be going anywhere. Bakugou took a few more deep breaths, squeezing his eyes closed and nodding. Shouta gave him a minute before speaking again. When we finally got up to you, Izuku was not in the best mindset. We just managed to get to the roof when he killed the Nomu. Shouta sighed and rubbed at his face harshly, willing the image to leave him. It was, quite frankly, terrifying to see what Izuku could do, to be reminded of who he was. It was like he wasn't in the present anymore. He wouldn't let anyone near you and nearly attacked the preschool teacher when she stopped Eri from going to him. Midnight had to put him under. That was going to be difficult for Izuku to recover from. Namori already made him so nervous. He paused, unsure how to deliver the next bill of information. Though with the look on Katsuki's face, Shouta suspected he already guessed what was coming. The HPSC aren't happy. Bakugou visibly tense. They had covered up the mishap with Mineta. Considering the circumstances, though it had taken a long conversation with Nezu and Izuku that Shouta wasn't allowed to be a part of. What Izuku did at the museum, that would broadcasted nationally. They were already being questioned intensely by both public and other heroes. Shouta had been dutifully avoiding his phone, only answering Hizashi. We'll protect him. Bakugou stated firmly. We have to. It wasn't his fault. He was helping. I know. We know that. I'm gonna do our absolute best to help him. But the picture Izuku painted of himself? Bakugou wasn't a good one. You didn't see him. He was almost feral, ruthless. Just like he was as Reaper. Bakugou glared at him. He is not just Reaper. He saved Eri. All those kids. He saved me. They stared each other down for a moment, before Shota's shoulders slumped. There was nothing he feared more, currently, than what the Commission could do to Izuku, if they got their hands on him. This wasn't Shouta protecting a kid simply because he saved his daughter and his student. Izuku wasn't just his responsibility as a hero anymore. This was Shouta wanting to protect a kid he cared about. Izuku was one of their own now. One of his kids. Their conversation was cut off as the nurse came in. He's awake. It took all of Shota's willpower not to sprint out of the room. But he knew he couldn't just leave Bakugou. Still, he tapped his foot impatiently while he waited for the nurses to get the boy into the wheelchair, much to Bakugou's dismay. The blonde looked just as angry and impatient as Shouta. Oh, for fuck's sakes! He grumbled, glaring at his teacher. Just fucking go to him already. I'll be right behind you. Shouta needed no more encouragement, swiftly leaving the room. He had to remind himself that he was in a hospital, and running wasn't permitted. When he reached Izuku's door, he took a deep breath, preparing himself for the worst. The last time Izuku woke up in the hospital, things didn't go all too well. He wasn't expecting to see Izuku sitting calmly on the edge of the bed, legs dangling. He watched as the nurse moved around, sorting through some files. Though his attention was immediately on Shouta when he noticed him, Izuku lowered his eyes, and Shouta hated the solemn expression on his face. He moved quickly towards him. I'm sorry. Shouta cut him off quickly, pulling his head into his chest. He was usually more cautious about sudden movements with Izuku, but he needed the hug. He needed to feel the boy in front of him, to be certain he was okay. He pressed his face into the boy's green curls, breathing deeply. Izuku didn't react, sitting frozen on his bed. Thank you, Shouta whispered. Hesitant hands wrapped around his back before gripping his jumper tightly. There was so much behind that simple thank you. So much more Shouta wanted and needed to say. For now, though, thank you would have to do. Okay. Well, I knew that there was probably going to be repercussions. There was no way there wasn't going to be repercussions from the HPSC. Also, I've gotten confirmed that the Hero Commission was not informed of the Mineta situation, and it was kind of like thrown under the rug, and I love that. I loved how they were like, with circumstances, let's just, wrap it under the rug. Nezu and Izuku will have a talk. I want to see what that talk was. I need to see that talk. I actually need to see a little more Izuku and Nezu interaction. Personally, I am a big Nezu and Izuku, interactions and stuff like that. I think it's super cool, super nice, super sweet. I think I have a fic where I want Izuku to be adopted by, by Nezu specifically. And it's something that I'm going to, have a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to fully go through with, Izuku being adopted by Nezu. Originally, that one was going to be a Denki Izuku fic, not a Denki Izuku, ship, but, friendship kind of situation. And Denki would be adopted by, not specifically Nezu, but, Aizawa and Hizashi, Aizawa and Hizashi, but then I decided against it. It was this whole thing. I'm still not sure if I'm gonna have that plotline or not, and stuff like that. Anyways, but I am a sucker for Nezu and Izuku interactions. I absolutely love them. Nezu adopting Izuku is very, very rare. At least I've not seen many fics on that. In my experience, I haven't actually actively looked for them, but organically, I haven't found them. Organically, you find Izuku and Aizawa fics. Even when I'm not looking for Izuku and Aizawa fics, where, Aizawa adopts Izuku fics, right? I naturally find them as I'm looking through other ships and stuff like that. And it's oh, it's a BKDK ship, but Izuku's dad is Aizawa and Hizashi. Interesting. Oh, it's a Shindeku fic, but Izuku's dads are Aizawa and Hizashi. Situations like that. This is really a really interesting chapter. I will say, here's an interesting distinguish. So while he was fighting the Nomu when he was protecting Eri, in his mind, he was repeating Eri, 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 and protect, 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 right? Acknowledging Eri, and then acknowledging that he's protecting, 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 right? Protecting Eri, right? And, when Bakugou comes in, and Bakugou's in trouble, it goes from protect to kill. And I find that very interesting. Mainly because, it makes sense. Izuku probably is holding on to the first kindness he felt out of his horrible situation. And that happens to be Katsuki, right? Mentally speaking, he would want to protect that comfort, that security with all his heart, especially Katsuki, because it's the first one he got, the first security. It's one thing to say, for example, you're friends. There's always going to be one that you like the most, but do not tell me that there is the person that you've been friends with the longest holds a special part in your heart. Me and my longest friend, my first ever friend, first ever actual friend, we have been friends for years. Years. We have been friends, what? 14 years now? Yeah, roughly 14 years, right? And, we may not speak on the daily. We may converse once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks. We do not converse on a regular basis. But she is still my ride or die. I would do anything for her. So, imagine Izuku, right? These emotions are hypersensitive. So much more than just simple, admiration for someone who you've cared about deeply. No. This is someone who's always never felt comfort. So when they feel comfort for the first time, that is going to be so much more, precious to them, even if they end up liking You know, Aizawa's comfort a whole lot more than Bakugou's comfort, which I highly doubt, right? But like, to a certain degree, Izuku's care for Katsuki, as hurtful as this is gonna sound, he cares about Katsuki more than he cares about Eri. Not saying that he doesn't care about Eri, he does. And maybe in his mind, he thinks that he cares about them equally. But in reality, if he had to choose between Eri and Katsuki, even if he hesitated, even if he took a while to think about this, in the end, he will choose Katsuki over Eri. Every time. You will always have a favorite. Always. You will always have one that you lean towards more than the other. And it might just be really hard to tell where that is leaning towards, if the lean is slight. Anyways, I like this chapter. I cannot wait to see more. I really hope the Hero Commission doesn't do anything bad. I would say we're technically halfway through this story. And, yeah. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.